How did you unlearn, for whatever reason, that you were unworthy of love? I struggle with this every day. I think it helps being aware that you feel unworthy. I wish I had an answer for you or a solution, but I don't. You are worthy of love though. You just have to believe it. It definitely helps being aware of it. I think that's the first step to overcoming the belief we're unworthy. Shadow work. Looking inward helped me understand if I feel unworthy of love, that means I judge others as being unworthy of love. The judgment I uncover is what I unconsciously fear and where I start unpacking the core emotions and maladaptive behaviors. What does this mean exactly? The way I interpret it is, when I look at others, the negative judgments I make of them means I'm most likely projecting, and that's what I really feel about myself. Yeah, you're pretty on it. It's also a term used a lot in the spiritual community. Looking at your darker side, understanding it, especially in how you make judgments against others, and then reconciling with it. Start small. Baby steps. Plus repetition. Find something you like about yourself. Can be anything at all. From I did a good thing, asking about how to learn this, to I like my taste in music, to this part of my body works properly, to the starburst pattern, is my eye is neat. Whatever. Just make it positive. Now, write it down. Tell yourself, in the mirror, what you found. Why in the mirror? Basically, the primal part of your brain will believe it more. Close bracket. Tomorrow. Do it again. Add to the list. Speak to the mirror. The next day. Again. Keep doing this. It will get easier and the list will get longer. And over time, you will find that you feel better about yourself and more able to accept that you deserve love from yourself and others. Yes, I always wondered what people saw in me that made them want to know me and be friends/lovers. So I asked them what they saw in me that they liked. Some told me things about my personality, others physical traits that I never saw as beautiful. It slowly showed me that the things I was critical about were the things others actually valued. For example, my clumsiness was a relief to others when they messed up. It somehow gave them a sense of ease. This is a long process, but I agree with this comment. Look for something you like about yourself. Maybe your hair or smile or the laugh lines on your face that remind you of the good times. Best piece of advice I ever received was to talk to myself the way I would talk to my best friend. We are often horribly unkind to ourselves. It helps to shift perspective. For instance, if I'm having issues at work, say a coworker, and I aren't getting along, I'll compare the thought processes to myself. I can't believe you screwed up so bad. No wonder your coworkers hate you. Get your poop together. Quit whining about how hard things are and just do your job. It's not that hard. To my best friend, dude, no wonder you're upset. It's so embarrassing to make mistakes like that. But it happens. You know you're intelligent and talented. Let's watch a movie and laugh it out. And that way, you can head into work tomorrow, refreshed and not holding on to all this guilt. Which of those statements is more reasonable? More compassionate? More likely to help an individual improve? Obviously, the later one. So why wouldn't I use that same encouragement towards myself? Over time, talking to yourself with kindness helps reinforce self-love. This post reminds me of the quote from The Perks of Being a Wallflower: "We only accept the love we think we deserve." Every time you feel unworthy, remind yourself, "Fuck patriarchy!" I love myself. I respect myself. I'm worthy of all the love and kindness in the world. And then don't wait for someone else to give it to you. All of these things, give them to yourself first. The respect, the love and the kindness, to nurture yourself into the beautiful being that you are. Namaste. I realized that I spent every day thinking I had to earn love or people wouldn't care about me. For example, if I didn't do this, people would stop caring about me. Then I had a therapist tell me, "Do you make your friends do things for you every day to earn you caring about them?" No, that's insane. Yeah. Funny how that works. Huh. I started consciously letting myself experience shame, regret and guilt. In the past I'd taken those emotions to mean that I was just fundamentally bad and would try to push them away as quickly as I could. Only they weren't going anywhere. They were still there in the back of my mind. influencing the way I thought of and valued myself. Now, when I feel those emotions coming, I accept them and let them be. I don't try to drown the thoughts and memories that come with them, but instead reflect them and empathize with myself the way that I would with a loved one. That doesn't mean that I tell myself there's never a reason for shame or regret. I make bad choices more often than I'd like, but that doesn't make me so unspeakably horrible that I can't even dare think about it. Getting better with this helped enormously with taking responsibility for myself, but it also helped me be compassionate and forgiving with myself. Not sure if I ever thought I was unworthy of love, but based on the men I dated and lack of boundaries I set, I definitely didn't love and respect myself. I hate to give this answer as it's a poop answer, but it's the truth for me. Ended up dating an amazing guy after all the scum. That relationship made me realize what a healthy relationship is and isn't, and that I deserved the absolute best. T didn't work out, but I never again dated what I'm sure you'd refer to as duck boys and set very high standards and boundaries for myself. But this was just luck for me. You can't expect someone to come along and make you realize how amazing you are. There is a lot of inner work and self-esteem building you have to do, but overall, I'd say a big part is realizing the little voice in your head is a bully. You have to learn to separate yourself from it. Be conscious of your thoughts, and for every bad thought you have, force yourself to have 3 positives. And when in doubt, ask yourself, would Beyonce allow herself to be treated this way? Apostrophe. Solemn. Years of being treated like you're unlovable or untrustworthy add up to become part of your inner voice. If someone respects you and speaks to you in a loving way, your inner voice gradually begins to change. Having a respectful, loving and trustworthy partner is what helped convince me. By finding friends who continually make me feel loved, and having one really strong romantic relationship, which did end, but I don't have any regrets. My BFFs tell and show me all the time that they love me and they appreciate and value me, and I do the same for them. The one really strong romantic relationship was the happiest I've ever been, and he made me feel loved every second of every day. I never doubted how he felt, and that made me feel invincible. For me to learn to love myself, it needed to be external first, which I think is completely fine. Before I found the right people, there was a lot of you just need to learn to love yourself. From friends, which I think is really unhelpful advice and actually just makes a lot of people feel worse. Needing external love/validation first is fine. Is it nice if it can come from yourself first? Sure, probably, but it is absolutely 100% okay if it doesn't. One time I admitted to a friend that I'd probably never be in a lasting relationship because the guy would just get tired of me anyway, and she said, well, you won't with that attitude. I realized that I might have been self-sabotaging my relationships before they even had a chance. I realized this while I was crushing hard on a great guy and also saying to myself that he was way too good for me and would get tired of me. I decided to start telling myself that I was absolutely worthy of love. His love. It was hard, but I kept it up until I believed it. It took a few months. It worked too. We just got engaged. I asked him not long after we started dating when his turning point was. It lined up with when I started telling myself that I was worthy of his love. I don't think that's a coincidence. Those insecurities still come up, but I go back to telling myself that I'm good enough for him. It takes a while, but it's just a lot of paying attention to how you talk to yourself. If you keep thinking good things about yourself, you'll start to believe them. Minor TW, eating disorders. What a question. Learning to fully love myself and accept love from others is something I'm still working on daily. I grew up with divorced parents, and this unstable situation led to a lot of problems I developed within myself and in my relationships with others. I had really low self-esteem, a distorted view of myself/my body, and depression. I felt like my life was falling apart and everything was out of my control. Eventually, these emotions and other factors in my life developed into anorexia at age 15. I had to go to out-of-state treatment for 4 months, and with therapy, I really turned my life around. I saw myself in a completely different light and found this new appreciation for myself. I'm 26 now and have been recovered now for over a decade. Recovering from the eating disorder was probably the thing that made me really learn how to love myself and to accept love/help from others. I realized that I was worthy of that. I'm worthy of love, acceptance and a healthy life worth living. I've always been ashamed of my family in the past because my parents are ex-cons and were addicts. I've always thought my future partners would judge me and wouldn't want to date or marry me because they don't want to have ex-cons as in-laws. As I grew older and exposed to more people, I found out that most people's families are imperfect, at least a little in their own ways, so I grew out of the shame. I worked in an organization that worked with youths, and I felt like my life story should be inspirational instead of shameful. When I eventually told my son about my parents' past, he was very accepting. He still treated my parents well and not any less, just because of their past. I spent a long time working on myself, but the biggest thing for me was a friend telling me you are worthy because you are human. Not to say animals aren't worthy, just that, well, being alive, being sentient, just being is enough. I don't need to do anything special to be worthy of love or respect. It's okay to just be. Growing up with very conditional love, that made a huge difference to me. I've been learning to accept my feelings as valid and to understand I don't have to be smart or talented or special. It's a hard road, but better than telling myself I'm not good enough. I think I'm unworthy of love. I just have a hard time loving myself and thinking good of me, and it feels harder to accept love from others because of that. At this point I don't know if there's some kind of self-defense mechanism because I've had it relatively good, so I knock myself down some pegs to get a reality check, or if I know deep down I'm just an average person and I should be doing more with myself and my time. I honestly don't know how to move forward in a healthy way towards loving myself. That's a very good question. I can pinpoint a few things that helped. One is the counterintuitive notion that I do better when I accept how I feel. I was not accepting the belief that I was unworthy of love. Rather, I'll let myself experience that emotion with one foot in and one foot out. Strong emotions such as feeling unworthy often make us want to do something, so much so that we forget to really examine it. Sometimes what we do is behavior that doesn't empower us, such as unhealthy relationships or boundaries, addictions or compulsions, or even just mental self-flagellation. Experiencing the feeling and accepting it as a feeling and not the truth was very helpful. That the feeling would pass. The second thing that helped was positive self-talk, and related to point 1, knowing that I'm going to have times when I feel like shit, that I'm not going to heal all at once. The third was realizing that no one is responsible for my emotions other than me. Emotions are a signal. I can witness them and try and learn from them. Sometimes they stem from some negative belief I have about myself. Sometimes they indicate someone is treating me poorly, and sometimes it's both. The fourth thing I can pinpoint is knowing that this feeling was conditioned. Somewhere down the line it was learned and can be unlearned over time. This knowledge helped me be more compassionate towards myself. The final thing I needed to learn was stronger social skills. I'm not sure to what extent this applies to other people who feel unworthy, but my hunch is that it can help. Literally reading about how boundaries work and what healthy boundaries typically look like helped. For example, for whatever reason, possible autism, abuse/isolation, being different, I didn't have a lot of opportunity to really learn and reinforce these skills. I have no effing clue. I used to loathe myself so much, and now I just do not anymore. It's not completely gone obviously, and it did take a decade of just trying to be the best version of myself. Even if it just meant doing a few dishes of getting out of bed that day, I think finding my so had a lot to do with it. Or maybe it's the other way around. I have a laundry list of books to recommend. All of them helped me in the grand scheme of things. But it's a mystery to me how I could go from thinking a FWB was too good for me to being happy and in love 5 years into a relationship with a wonderful man. My piece of advice is, everyone deserves fulfillment and happiness. Your only hope of making it happen is simply to try. First, I decided I was going to figure out how to love myself. I meditated, Use traditional therapy, psychedelic assisted therapy, journaling, affirmations, self-forgiveness. The book Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping was a game changer for me. I read this as how did you learn that you were unworthy of love? And about 15 memories instantaneously cropped up, substantiating my utter unworthiness. Clearly I have not unlearned anything. It happened slowly over time for me. I had a terrible toxic friendship in high school that made me think nobody likes me for me, and they only liked my friend. I dated the first guy ever at 19 and lost all my friends, and I had terrible social anxiety. Over the next 6 years of having a job and slowly realizing hey people like me and think I'm funny with nobody else helping me, I finally realized I was somebody worth liking and I wasn't boring and a waste of time. It was hard and I still have bad days, but I'm a completely different person now. I'm a 27-year straight, awkward guy and I have never done anything remotely intimate with a woman aside from 2 kisses. Therapy didn't help. What did help somewhat is becoming more dedicated to a personal interest which may alleviate the issues of others while being distracted from my own. i.e., not doing it out of pure altruism. Paradoxically perhaps, accepting that I may never find romantic love does make it easier to find internal peace. I weaponize my anger and freely share outrage and hurts rather than hold them in. Then after expressing all that, I may choose to check in with myself and my partner to verify if it was too much or just right. Repeat. Practice. etc. I learned how better everyone got after being given love. The better they got, the better they were to others. That lighted up a switch that the more love I got would better me and I could give more to others. So much therapy unpacking everything, past experiences, examples of relationships I'd grown up with, expectations people, including me, had put on me, and my perception of those expectations too. It's not that I'd experienced anything particularly traumatic or dreadful, it just all added up to a big old clusterfuck over the years. My mom left when I was 4. From that, I learned if the person who gave birth to me doesn't love me, how can anyone else? I'm dealing with it in therapy and stuff. I have to make myself believe that people around me love me. I have to believe that not every person is a liar. I have to find the love in the small moments of people doing things they may not like very much for me, or seeing something at the grocery store and thinking oh hey, that reminds me of her. I'm going to get it for her. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.